Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to another episode of Tuesday Takes Week 1 edition. We finally made it, guys. It is Falcons Bucs on Sunday. We're less than a week away. And I'm joined, of course, by Tre'Shon Diaz at Trey3Sean on the Twitters to get into some Week 1 expectations, bring you guys an update on everything that's been going on since we last spoke to you. Obviously, we have some injury news. We have some who's going to be starting news, some unexpected news there, perhaps. We talked about right tackle, of course, talking about some of the minor roster stuff, and just talking about everything you need to know to get ready for Week 1 here. Tre'Shon, exciting time. How are you doing in the lead up? We just got a couple days until real football starts.
Yeah, exciting. This weekend I held a beautiful service for my Khalid Kareem takes. Buried those feelings and got ready for Week 1, Kevin, because there is a lot to be excited about. And I just I like we can start anywhere, but like honestly, it's just like real football's back. The team is 0-0. Anything can happen at this point. The team is, right where they want to be to make the playoffs. Let's see if they can do it.
Yeah, this is the first step, and it's a major one. The Bucs are obviously the Falcons' biggest foe, at least as far as we know at this point. I mean, crazy things have happened. I don't think we have to worry about the Saints, but maybe the Panthers could defy expectations. You can't ever rule that kind of craziness out, but most likely it's going to be the Bucs. That are the Falcons' greatest adversary for this division. The Bucs have won it 4 years in a row, I believe now. So. I think they're overdue for a slump year here. And I think the Falcons hopefully could help them achieve that slump year. Although the odds have moved in the wrong direction. We've been talking about it, but the Falcons officially have fallen to 2.5-point underdogs on FanDuel as of today. So, I don't know why now. I'm guessing there's more money going on the Bucs because the McGarry news finally adjusted the odds there. But
talk about respect, man. Look at that. The whole league knows that Caleb McGarry is a top tackle.
Vegas knows.
We've been saying all along,
yeah.
Kevin.
I know. So
all the money.
It's not the way I wanted him to get the respect, unfortunately, but it is what it is, and that's what
it would cost.
No. So. Spicy odds there if you believe in the Falcons. You're going to get plus money on Atlanta in this matchup, so you can check that out. Also want to take a moment to plug our sponsor for this week. We got ZipRecruiter back, folks. ZipRecruiter is the place to find your candidates. All right, guys. We all know when you're looking for qualified applicants for your positions, it is very time consuming, right? You got to wade through a lot of resumes. Unfortunately, the way it is right now, it's just a really jammed job market. Tons of people are looking for work, and you need to be able to find the guys or the girls or whoever that's qualified for your position. And it's tough to wade through all that stuff. You want to be able to find the people that are qualified, and you want to do it quickly. Well, the future of hiring looks much brighter because ZipRecruiter's latest tools and features help speed up finding the right people for your roles. So you save valuable time, guys. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. Now, with ZipRecruiter's new advances, you can easily find and connect with qualified candidates in minutes. And if you see a candidate you're really, really interested in, you can unlock their contact info instantly. All right. So ZipRecruiter, use it, save time hiring. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And if you go to ZipRecruiter.com/audio right now, you can try it for free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. All right, Tre'Shon. Well, we'll go back because we haven't had a show since Wednesday. And we haven't, of course, talked since Tuesday. So a lot of news dropped in that time period. We'll start with the sad news that Bralen Trice unexpectedly placed on injured reserve. Now, it is possible that it's short-term IR, but Raheem Morris dropped the specter of this being a possibly season-ending aggravation of his previous knee injury that held him out for the entirety of the 2024 season, which would just be crushing. Obviously, the Falcons weren't necessarily depending on Trice being healthy this year, which was wise, but I don't think anyone was expecting this, unfortunately, and this is now a very dangerous place for Trice to be in his career, and the Falcons were really, I think, looking forward to having him as a member of this rotation. I mean, I think he was starting to really look healthier and start to come on in the preseason, and this is just a crushing blow for him.
Yeah. Yeah, the track record for guys with 2 devastating knee injuries is not great. And it's very unfortunate that, after seeing Trice get a lot of action throughout the preseason, and, there obviously weren't any signs to any of us or the staff at that time that there was anything wrong with his knee. He did flash, and he was somebody that, was going to be in the second and third wave of this defense, who I think they were going to, need to call upon at certain times, especially, just with the nature of injuries and things like that. There's a good chance that he was going to be counted on. And, now he's out for an undisclosed amount of time, which is every Falcons player is out for an undisclosed amount of time, except for Caleb McGarry at this point, who we know for sure is done for the season. So it's very unfortunate. You just hate this too, because this is a player that already missed a full year of development. That development's now, again, getting pushed back. And this is a position that, you and I have talked about a lot. Like, edges take time to grow in this league. They need to be able to get their legs under them to get those game reps. And he's somebody whose only game reps have come in the preseason at this point, and then he's cut off from the regular season. And it's just super unfortunate situation.
Yeah, I hate it for him. It's rough. So we're certainly hoping that we can get Bralen Trice back this season and give him an opportunity, hopefully, to continue to play and grow, and just fingers crossed for his health here. But it's a tough loss, and we will have to see, of course, what the Falcons are going to do to replace him. It seems at this point like it's probably just going to be Khalid Kareem getting moved up, or whatever it is. We'll see. Maybe all this gnashing of teeth over Khalid Kareem is just ultimately really pointless because of Bralen Trice's injury, unfortunately. But hopefully he'll be back healthy soon, and we can continue to have the arguments about who should play, because we'd rather have multiple options than none, no matter what. So best of luck, Bralen. Hope you get healthy soon. Let's go to some nice news, some exciting news, because both of us, I think, ended up being right about some preseason takes, and that Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman Jr. are going to be starting for this Falcons defense. I was really high on Watts starting. I know you have been high on Bowman the whole time, so both of us were right. I thought Bowman had yeah, love it when that happens. I was pretty surprised by the Bowman stuff. They did seem to hint at it, and that he just basically stopped appearing in the preseason after the first game, and the Falcons were giving D. Alford and Natrone Brooks tons of runs, so that seemed to suggest that those guys were going to be more depth players. So I mean, I obviously hope it turns out well on the field, but it's certainly, in terms of, there's a lot of angles to this. Obviously, I think these guys are probably just the long-term players here for the Falcons, so it's nice to see them early. It's also a complete reversal of what we saw Raheem Morris do with the rookies last year, where the Falcons, I think, only got a couple hundred snaps total from their entire rookie class last year. And we're now going to get 2 rookies absolutely playing probably, 80 to 90% of the snaps at minimum. I'm a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of this move. I hope that Bowman's ready. I think he's probably the one that we have to be a little bit more concerned about, even though I think this is definitely the right move, long term. It might be a little ugly week 1, but
tough call.
It's gonna be tough. It's bold. I mean, I do like it, but yeah, how are you feeling about this announcement? I think this is the one that softened the blow of the Trice injury a little bit for me. So
yeah, we were both really expecting a lot from these two, and so it's nice when you kind of see that get realized through the preseason and training camp. And you really saw why, I think, in both of their preseason games. Billy Bowman's energy is just different. Nobody is moving at his speed, and it's happening every single play. And I really think it is what he's going to offer in terms of physicality in the run game. I know we've talked about the tackling concerns and things like that, and those are legitimate. We're hoping that's been cleaned up. Like you mentioned, there's a big test in the slot this week with Ibuka. I think that Emika's obviously a rookie too, and but he's different. He's a monster. I think that he's going to give Bowman a real challenge. But I think that this coaching staff his confidence, I don't think that they believe Billy Bowman's going to flinch. And I think that's why he's going to get this spot. And I think that's why he won this job, because the other guys in the slot, we know that they have that volatility to them. We saw throughout this preseason good play and bad play. It wasn't all bad from D. Alford, but we did see a couple of those mistakes that popped up last year that, give us concern, for longevity's sake, like you're saying. And so, for the team to have this confidence and say, we're going to roll with Bowman, we're going to roll with Watts, and we're going to live with the ups and downs that could come with that. I think, hats off to them. I agree with you, Kevin. I think that's the move you make for this team.
Yeah. I think I would have liked to see it more last year, but at least that, again, the learning from mistakes, like, that's a really important thing for any coach, especially a coach coming off a year where the team didn't meet expectations, is like, what did we do wrong and can we fix it? And, I think this offseason we've seen a willingness to adjust. And, that may have been more like a Jimmy Lake thing, not necessarily a Raheem Morris thing that he didn't want to play rookies. I mean, we saw Raheem Morris use rookies extensively in Los Angeles when he was the DC there. So it could be a joint thing, like both Ulbrich and Raheem were like, yeah, we're going to play these guys. We just drafted them. We want to play them. So, maybe the hope is that the guys that we didn't see last year, like Dorless and Rook, who both looked, Rook looked dominant in training camp and Dorless looked really good in the preseason. They can finally get on the field, and then we get multiple rookies on the field, and then it's kind of like we're getting, multiple draft classes on the field at the same time and getting a youth movement there that we really need. Falcons really need that. So I'm hoping that pans out. But yeah, I think Xavier Watts have a lot of confidence in his ability, particularly with, I'm sure the defense will allow Watts to probably have the easier assignments, and Bates can handle the tougher stuff, and that hopefully that'll free up Watts to be able to make some plays and not have to have the entire deep, half of the field, like, type of coverage responsibilities right out of the gate, and over time the idea should be that, Watts and Bates are pretty much interchangeable guys, and you can do a lot of really creative stuff and have maybe Bates in the box more, and we'll see what's going on with how they deploy these guys. We didn't get to see a ton of it. Obviously we didn't see any of it in the preseason. We saw it just a little bit in training camp, but those two safeties could be sort of the backbone, and hopefully Bowman can come in and provide an upgrade on D. Alford and make that secondary, really the strength of this defense. While this front seven kind of figures itself out, I do think that the talent in the edge room is finally there that the Falcons just haven't had previously. But I don't think we're necessarily going to have it hit immediately. I think these guys are going to take some time. But hopefully, with the secondary playing really well, they'll have a little bit more time to get to the quarterback and give this defense a fighting chance. Which I definitely like the way it looks better than last year, but still TBD on what that means. Because it was not good to end last year. That was really ugly. So if this defense looks anything like that, we're gonna have big problems. So that's the good news. Back to some maybe, depending on your opinions, bad news. Elijah Wilkinson is going to be the starter at right tackle, at least in week 1. And this is, more or less what we told you guys that was going to happen. There just weren't really any other options in-house, unless you wanted to let Jack Nelson or Brandon Parker do it, which, to be clear, they made the right call giving it to Elijah Wilkinson first. But, at this point, we will have to see if, how that's going to work out. But Elijah Wilkinson's officially going to get the first shot. They did bring in, we talked about guys they could claim. We both mentioned Carter Warren, and they did end up getting Carter Warren on the practice squad. So, maybe he is the right tackle of the future this year after he gets up to speed. Maybe they want to give Michael Jarrell an opportunity. He's more of a developmental type, I think. But, I think they did improve the depth behind Wilkinson. I think the big question now is Wilkinson swing tackle caliber or worse than swing tackle caliber? And we haven't seen him play tackle in 2 years. So I think, the chances are probably that he's not up to the challenge, but I am Elijah Wilkinson's biggest defender. So I'm going to go on record right now and say Elijah Wilkinson will be fine. He will probably be a below average starting tackle, but that might be just okay for this offense. I don't think it's going to destroy this offense or be catastrophic. I think he will be just all right, dog. So, but I don't know what your opinion is on the Wilkinson situation. Is this like impending doom for you, or where are you at?
You know, I've thought about it a lot, and it's really going to come down to the game plan that Zach Robinson rolls out more than anything. Like, yes, you know, I'm a big believer that, like, at the end of the day, it's, you know, it's about the players that you have. You know, talent matters just a little bit more than coaching, but I don't think that coaching doesn't matter. And in this instance, when you have injuries and things like that, this is when coaching really becomes important, because you have to make this easier for the offensive line, for Elijah Wilkinson. If we're asking Elijah Wilkinson to be Kaleb McGary and we're going to lean on running to the right and all of that, then yeah, I think it could get ugly really quick. If we're not going to use any play action to help him out in pass protection or other situations like that, again, I think it could get ugly really quick if you're going to ask him to just do true pass sets, do 20 a game with no play action. I think Wilkinson, like you said, can be like a just like somewhat serviceable below average right tackle to get us through this period until we get either Storm Norton back, or if it's Carter Warren or Jarrell or whoever. And he can fill that void, but he's not going to be able to do or function the same way that Kaleb McGary was asked. And that seems like a really obvious thing, right? Like, it seems like, yeah, no brainer, but we've not talked about this a ton, but like Zach Robinson's offense last year, like, we know play action was the biggest thing missing from it. And so, you know, we don't know what we're going to see this year. We're under the assumption it's going to pick up, but if it doesn't, they're going to be in trouble. And I think it's going to make this a lot harder of a transition than it needs to be.
Yeah. The hope obviously is that, you know, that Kirk Cousins was basically holding back this offense's ability to run play action. And then in season, when they switched to Penix, it was like, well, we've already got the playbook more or less set. We're really not going to be able to just like implement a bunch of play action now easily. So we're just going to roll with what we had. And like what they had was not bad, but it definitely wasn't the typical, you know, McVay style offense either. So I do think that we're going to see a lot more play action. And I think we were going to see a lot more before Kaleb McGary went down. But now, out of necessity, I think play action is going to be a staple. And also, I think the inside run is going to be much more emphasized than it otherwise may have been, which I think is actually, this is like a good consequence. It's not good that Kaleb McGary's hurt in any way. Like, but if you're looking at like sort of knock-on effects of his injury, a good consequence could be that it more or less forces the Falcons to use more inside running than they may otherwise not have done. And I think that will actually be a good development. I think that the inside running will be very effective for them, and they can lean on their two guards that they have a lot of faith in. Now, Newsle's more of a question mark, but you know, I think the guards are good enough that you can lean on that more, and you could run more gap concepts or just more inside zone and try to have success there and take some of the pressure off your right tackle that used to be like your number one run blocker. You can't really do that anymore, and you won't be able to do that again this year, even when Storm Norton comes back. So we'll have to see what they want to do, but I think it is maybe I think if they're able to lean more on the inside run, more gap power concept running, and utilize more play action, like you said, I think that can mitigate the loss to some extent. And again, like we've said, like McGary, I think had been improving his pass pro work to where you might even consider him like a slightly above average pass protector. Even as like last year, I thought he maybe took that step. But we're not talking about going from like Tristan Wirfs to like, you know, like a third string tackle. We're talking about going from like average to slightly above average pass protection to maybe like slightly below average pass protection. So it's not like a giant drop off in that regard. Where the big drop off is like elite run blocking to like probably average to below average run blocking. So that they're just not going to have the oomph there. But again, you've got a running back as good as Bijan Robinson. Those are the guys that can kind of find ways to get around some weaknesses on the offensive line. So that's hopefully when this elite running back you invested in can kind of make some plays that other guys might not be able to get out of. And the Falcons are going to just have to lean on Bijan's specialness to kind of cover up the loss of Kaleb McGary. And hopefully between him and the other great run blockers they still have on this team that they'll be able to find a way to get it done, because I think they will still need to lean on the run game while this passing game continues to mature and Penix continues to mature as well.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things to help with that too is, you have 4 tight ends for a reason, right? Charlie Warner should be attached to Elijah Wilkinson's hip. Like, if you want to help out Elijah Wilkinson, that's probably one of the easiest things you can do. We do not need to roll out the Kyle Pitts, TJ Watt chip plan. I think that we've kind of figured out at the end of last season that Charlie Warner is a pretty darn good blocking tight end, and the more you use him, the better. And like you're saying, Kevin, running the ball cures a lot of sicknesses. It can do a lot for the football team. And, there's another potential injury that, again, if that person is dismissed, we were talking about Darnell Mooney earlier, who's day to day right now. We're expecting that he'll make it, but if he's gone, again, you want to lean on Bijan, you want to lean on Algier. You want to lean on these tight ends that you signed to, improve your rushing offense.
Yeah. And I hope we do see more 12. And you can kind of call it 11 if you have Pitts like in the slot. Yeah. But, I think Werner should be starting. Like, I think, like, I do see, like, the benefit, obviously, of there will be times when the Falcons need to go 3 receivers and just get more pass-heavy, like, emphasis on the field. And that's why it's great to have a guy like Ray McLeod who can give you a little bit more juice and more yards after catch ability sort of out there. But I think for like just base package, like I don't see any reason why this team can't be like a 20 to 30% 12 team, because Charlie Warner's a great blocker and Kyle Pitts can be a really dynamic deep threat. And I think that's where he's best utilized. I think everyone keeps trying to turn him into this, like, oh, he can do this, he can do that. Maybe he should just be a Jimmy Graham deep threat tight end, and you just let him run deep and actually throw him the ball, like sometimes, like unlike Kirk Cousins. But like we've seen, like everybody watches some of these routes that Kyle Pitts runs, and he's not the most fluid route runner. We know that. So just let him run the deep routes. Like, I think the routes where he gets to build up speed and then do like maybe one cut or something, he's good at those. I think if you try to do these complicated receiver routes, he's just too big. He's just too big for that. He does have elite long speed and that's, and an elite catch radius, but like these like little over the middle trash, throws, like where you got to navigate contact and all that. I think we did see obviously that he can be a good contested catch guy at times, but I think his confidence has been shattered. In past seasons, he kind of felt like he lost the trust of the quarterback, and that psychologically is tough for players. I think Penix I think this is an underrated thing with Pitts. It's like the psychological aspect of it. Like, I think Pitts has the full confidence of Michael Penix, and like that's a two-way street. Like, so I think now that he can feel that, that should hopefully give him the confidence that he needs to now be more fearless over the middle, to go out there and give, better effort, because he doesn't feel like I'm just going to go out here and run like 50 routes and get targeted on like 3 of them, because the quarterback doesn't trust me. So I think that dynamic is just a lot healthier with this quarterback and this situation this year, and that could pay dividends too, especially if, like you said, Darnell Mooney has to miss time, because we're all arguing about who's going to swap in for Darnell Mooney, and maybe the answer is actually it's Kyle Pitts that's going to swap in, not necessarily playing outside, but I certainly hope that Mooney's back, like you said, and that's probably going to be our next topic. But if we do need to lean on a blocking tight end, and Mooney's possibly not going to be 100%, we still need a deep threat, and the second best deep threat on the team is Kyle Pitts. So let's do it. Let's fire it up. Let's get this Kyle Pitts redemption season off on the right foot by cooking some undersized slot players, hopefully. Yeah, that would be fun. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, but we just laid out, again, everybody's dealing with injuries, right? We're talking about ours. Tampa Bay is going through a ton of injuries on their own, and so this is where your staff has to get creative, has to understand their personnel, and really put together a good game plan. There's been all this talk about the preseason and everything like that, and I'm more my mind is more going on what is the week 1 game plan, because we saw what happened last year. And so we know now that it's a completely different situation in terms of quarterback health, comfort level with the offense and everything, just with the coaching staff being here. Is Zach Robinson going to be able to get creative, going to be able to break away from his 11 personnel? And like you said, do some pseudo 12 personnel, lean into some of that. Maybe look at using Casey Washington as a blocker at times in place of Ray McLeod or others out there if, we're missing Mooney. But really want to see how they get creative. And something we haven't talked a ton about, but like, are we going to use 2 running backs? We're going to have some pony personnel. We saw them have some success in the Minnesota Viking game specifically. We didn't really ever see it come back again. It wasn't really used in high volume. That's just another, tool in his belt that I feel like, we really want to start seeing him use and get more and more out of his shell, out of his comfort zone. And hopefully, that's what we see, at the start of year 2.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the way forward. And I certainly hope that it's a healthier relationship, it's a healthier situation, and that Pitts can blossom there. Because, whether or not the Falcons re-sign him, Pitts playing great is just good for this team. Like, whether it's for a tag and trade, whether it's for the possibility of premium comp pick, return, even though that's very unlikely to happen. But yeah, fingers crossed.
You never know.
Yeah, I kind of don't think the Falcons are going to let Pitts walk, folks. I mean, we'll see what happens. We are a long way away from having any sort of answers there, but definitely something to monitor long term. But yeah, one of the things we just mentioned that's important for week 1 is the status of Darnell Mooney. We still don't know what his official practice status is. He was practicing to some extent last week. So we will obviously get an update on Wednesday. That will be when the Falcons release their official week 1 practice report for the first time. And if he is practicing in full, then we'll be very confident that he will play. And if he's not, then we'll have some questions. But what's your level of concern for Mooney's week 1 availability? I mean, we don't have a practice report, guys, so this is 100% speculation. But how are you feeling sort of at this point?
50-50. Yeah, 50-50, because that's how Raheem Morris wants me to feel. He doesn't want me to know if he's going to turn left, if he's going up, if he's going down. And he's got me right where he wants me. I've no idea what's going to happen. I feel as confident as him playing as I do at him not playing. So congrats, Raheem Morris. You and your coach speak. It's working. It's working out here.
Yeah. So, I feel the same way, about 50-50. I do think he's probably like 75% for week 2. Like, I think that he's going to be coming back soon, I think. But yeah, I think the Falcons are preparing to potentially have him out for week 1. And I think, again, like, even though this is a critical game, they've already lost one critical starter. I don't think that they want to rush him back and risk a re-aggravation either. So of whatever this injury is, because we really don't know. We still don't know, like, at all, really. We'll see how they describe it, I guess. But I think he's close. I think it's very possible he could play. But yeah, if you're like planning to start Darnell Mooney, like you're probably in a deep league. But if it's a deep league, like, it's fine. I think he will probably once again put up like quasi wide receiver 2 numbers some weeks, and be like very startable most of the time. But I would worry a little bit this week, even if he does play, that he'll be on a snap count. So we'll see. So there's your fantasy 60 seconds, folks. But yeah, we'll see how quickly he's back and what the practice report is. But I think he'll be back soon. Whether it'll actually be full go for this week, still TBD. But
yeah. And I think the other important thing to keep in mind is just like the lost time, just the like not getting the reps with Penix, other things like that. So I think, just kind of like you said, even if he's healthy, probably going to see him on, a little bit of a snap count, a little bit of a pitch count there. And then, we'll see how comfortable Penix feels going at him. I'm sure Penix is telling, all of them that he's going to trust them, whatnot, this, that, the other. But, once the game actually gets going, we'll see if that's an option that he feels comfortable going to.
Yeah. So we'll see how that deploys. But the Falcons have been more or less preparing Casey Washington to play in Mooney's spot, and like the depth. They just released the depth chart a couple minutes ago, so we could squeeze that in too.
Let's get it.
But yeah, Casey Washington is Darnell Mooney's backup on this depth chart that's been released. So that, for all of you that were curious where Casey Washington was planning to line up, as we kind of saw in training camp, he has more or less taken Mooney's snaps. Yeah, I think on offense, there's not really any surprises other than that. Pretty straightforward stuff there. Officially, Elijah Wilkinson is listed as the starting right tackle. Charlie Warner and Kyle, right now, interestingly, they're showing
Jack Nelson.
Yeah, Jack. Yeah, that is terrifying. But
Sorry.
they're showing 2 tight ends listed and 3 wide receivers listed. So maybe a little intrigue there about there might maybe hinting at more 12, because they seem to have a blocking tight end with Werner and Teagan, Toriano, and then they have the receiving tight end with Pitts and then Felipe Franks. So interesting deployment there.
I like that though. That's kind of like what we talked about with Teagan. We were saying that he's somebody that, they needed to upgrade their blocking tight end behind Warner. They had Ross Dwelley last year, who was just not, the answer. And so I think, Teagan is going to actually be able to help this team out in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see if that listing, if that is what that indeed is kind of foreshadowing.
Yeah, to me, it's I want to see Teagan active, because I think there's benefit to having him available for heavy set, goal line, short yardage plays, because I think he's a good enough blocking tight end that you might actually want him if you're going to play heavy. He's enough of a plus there that you actually would consider activating him, even if just to play a couple snaps. So I'm curious to see what they do there. But the fact that they do have those 2 tight ends listed is pretty interesting.
And over on the defense, the interesting thing here is D. Alford listed as AJ Terrell's backup. I figured Natrone Brooks would have been the one to be backup on the outside first, but he's actually behind Billy Bowman, which is fine with me. Brooks is, I think, good in the slot. Showed that he can do inside work and outside work, probably more versatile of the two. And then that Josh Woods is listed as the immediate backup behind Divine Diablo. Not a big surprise, but that D'Angelo Malone is in that inside linebacker group and not with the edge group where he was listed on the 53-man cut sheet.
Yeah, no, that interesting stuff there. Like you said, D. Alford, apparently they like him maybe better listed outside. Clark Phillips also listed outside for all you Clark Phillips outside truthers like myself.
That's right.
From Brooks,
we told you guys it was never going to happen.
Stop trying to make it happen. It's not going to happen.
It's not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening. But Natrone Brooks, I think Natrone Brooks maybe is just the top backup corner. And we may just see him come on the field no matter what. But maybe he's more the top nickel guy, and then if he needs to come out and play, he will. But I'm guessing maybe Clark Phillips is the top outside backup. I don't know. In the past, that's been a role that he's played. So, I think for all we didn't really see much of Phillips at all in camp and preseason. So I don't really want to take too much away from that. I mean, early on in camp, he was playing with the third stringers, which felt a little weird, but clearly he's not completely out of the coaching staff's good graces. I mean, he made the roster over some other guys that were pushing hard, and I think he very much could be in play as the top outside backup. I think in coverage he's looked pretty good. I think the run defending, and it's not even that he's poor run defender in terms of technique. He's just small. So I think he has acquitted himself well in limited coverage snaps, and if he does have to play, he's probably the guy of between him and Alford that I feel more comfortable with playing coverage. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's Xavier Watts obviously listed as the starter. Interesting. Another interesting one. Brandon Dorless. They're showing a 4-2-5 look here basically in this readout, which is pretty typical. Most teams have nickel as their base package. So Leonard Floyd and Arnold Bacady as the 2 starting edges with the 2 rookies backing them up. And then Brandon Dorless and David Onyemata are the 2 starting defensive linemen. So shout out to Brandon Dorless. I feel like he didn't get any pop. Where was his press conference pop announcing Brandon Dorless as the starter? I think he deserves some pop.
Yeah, that's a fun nugget right there. I'm surprised that, like you're saying, we didn't see anything for him. Was really big on Dorless last year. He's one of those guys, like we were saying, really wish that this rookie mentality that we're seeing being rolled out now was rolled out last year, but it is what it is. The Falcons are clearly, righting their wrongs, and they said that we're going to lean into the youth movement, give Dorless the start. And yeah, I think that this will all be pretty fluid when we look at that group, especially. It's really interesting though. Like we only have 4 edge players listed. Jalen Walker and James Pierce are going to play. They're going to get a lot of play time. D'Angelo Malone obviously can do both, but he's listed with the inside linebackers. I think he's going to be a special teams guy. I don't think we are. I hope we're not going to see D'Angelo Malone edge reps in week 1, but if we're winning, then it might come to it. It could be a good thing at the same time. Not gonna, maybe not gonna get too ahead of myself there, but I think that's a good sign that your rookie edges are going to get a lot of run this game.
Yeah. No, I mean, I assume we'll get a Khalid Kareem call up, like activation at least for the weeks that he's eligible for that. While the team kind of figures out what they're doing with Trice, if they need to add anyone else. But yeah, right now it looks like, I would expect significant snaps for both rookies, because I think Leonard Floyd's probably going to be capped at like 40-ish to 50-ish% of snaps. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for these other guys to play as a result. Or maybe they're going to play Leonard Floyd a ridiculous amount of snaps, but I don't think that's best for him at this point. So I still think he's good. It's just like, I think that would be asking a lot for, what is he, 33 this year? Like, Floyd, go out there and play 70%. Let's go. This is Calais Campbell. Like, shout out to Calais Campbell, still doing it, by the way. But that would be
going to earn that $10 million. They gave him $10 million guarantee. He's going to earn that $10 million.
You're playing $10 million. You get every 100 snaps, you get $1 million apparently. So you're playing 1,000 snaps this year. Buckle up, Leonard. But I do think there's a lot of talent in that 4-pack of guys, and I hope the rookies are ready to go because they're going to be playing. Ruka Roro behind Dorless, Zach Harrison behind Onyemata. I suspect we'll see plenty of 3-4 looks too. But the fact that the team really didn't go after a nose tackle does kind of suggest that it might be more like 4-3 type stuff that they run up front. But I guess we'll have to see how they end up deploying these guys. Because in camp there was more, I think, 3-4 looking stuff. So, and certainly in the preseason we saw plenty of that as well. So curious perhaps, and we'll see what they end up deploying against the Bucs this week. But yeah, not too much intrigue elsewhere. It's Jamal Agnew as your primary punt and kick returner, Raymond McLeod as your secondary guy. Yep, and then Mike Hughes is your sort of like backup returner. And I imagine like if they need Natrone Brooks, he's available as well there. But it seems like Agnew's ready to go. They didn't put him on IR. There doesn't seem, we'll see if he's practicing in full or whatever, but didn't get to see him really at all in the preseason. So hopefully he's ready to go and can give this team some juice at returner that they didn't really have any last year. So that would be nice to see.
Yeah, it would be, and hey, maybe we can look at Nate Carter still at some point, Marquise. Just putting it out there. It could be a lot of fun. But I think that no surprises really. It's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be able to match up with the Bucs. But I don't think that there's really. I don't know, Kevin. I don't really think anything else on here. Mike Ford at Nickelback.
Hopefully not. Yeah. Hopefully we don't have to see that. Yeah.
Koo. We're hoping that Koo is, back to his consistent ways. We know that there's a plan in place on the practice squad in case things go awry. But other than that, hopefully everybody stays healthy, especially at that linebacker group.
Yeah. I sure hope so. The good news is there's usually some depth. In terms of linebackers available in the free agent market, but Falcons didn't really seem too keen on going after any of those guys. So I hope they're right about not needing that. We'll see, but yeah, we shall see. So yeah, guys, Wednesday is when we're gonna get the first official injury report. So we'll have some more sort of updates on the health of anyone that's maybe going to be questionable for this week 1 game, but. Yeah, Sunday, 1 p.m. going to be the first game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium's Falcons hosting the Bucs. We're not really previewing the game today, but Tre'Shon, what are you looking forward to? How are you feeling going into Week 1? Like, what are your expectations for this game?
Well, the expectation is always to win. So, I see, I see a path to victory for the Atlanta Falcons. I really do. And so, for me, I'm just looking mainly for, Zach Robinson showing us that he has learned from 2024. He's ready to build off of what was, I think, a solid average debut. And take it to the next step and really take this offensive step forward. And I'm looking for Jeff Ulbrich to have a fundamentally sound defense that just flies around. If they can swarm the ball, if we can get back to tackling, if the first defender that arrives can be the guy that brings the guy down, the simple things like that. Get to the quarterback here and there. This defense is going to be fine. It's going to take some hits because it does have some young talent across the board, and that's just the nature of the beast. But, I do think that they could be a opportunistic group, and, I'm excited to see what they're going to look like, all of that youth that's been injected onto that side of the ball.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see how this team looks on both sides. They're not getting a soft landing here, although the Bucs are more injured than the Falcons, so there is certainly that to contend with. The Bucs are not coming into this game at full health, and again, we'll get their injury report update on Wednesday. It could be a lengthy one, but yeah, I mean, I think for the Falcons, it's, you need to be able to put up points. That's going to be required for this team to win, I believe. And they don't necessarily get a easy matchup, but the Bucs defense was vulnerable last year. And, I do think they have some holes that the Falcons could exploit, especially if this team is missing guys. But yeah, I mean, you look at, just kind of top down quick look, like obviously Chris Godwin is not going to be around for some time. Tristan Wirfs not going to be around for some time. We'll see. Mike Evans is the guy that's going to be still their clear number one target. But, at this point, Mika Egbuka, the rookie, is going to be thrust into that wide receiver 2 role immediately. And for the record, I think he will be good. So I don't think Falcons fans should be rejoicing that the rookie is going to be in this huge role week 1. I mean, he may not hit it off immediately, but I would not take, confidence in just having a Mika Egbuka out there and that the Falcons are going to shut him down. I think he's a little too good for that, but it does thrust someone else into the starting lineup. So it's crazy to me that the Bucs went out, they had Jalen McMillan, who was great for them down the stretch last year, and Chris Godwin was back, and Mike Evans, and then they got a Mika Egbuka. So they've got this 4 deep rotation of guys that would start on pretty much any NFL roster, and then 2 of them are not available. So now we're talking about Ryan Miller, Sterling Shepard, Tez Johnson. One of these guys is going to be starting. So the Falcons definitely can't just, that they should have an easier time, that they could focus more effort, I think, on Mike Evans and the rookie. So that should help things. I think in terms of the rest of this roster, the Falcons, I think the Bucs interior, especially against the run, is questionable. Vita Vea is elite. We all know that, but Logan Hall, not good, which is a shame because I was a big Logan Hall guy at the Senior Bowl. Really was high on him, but he has not panned out, and he's still slated to start for them there. Kalijah Kancey, really good pass rusher. Against the run, big problem. He's a penetration style guy, but he could get blown up there. So I think, again, this could be an opportunity. You can't run directly at Vita Vea, but you can maybe run to the right or left of Vita Vea through one of those 3-tech sort of gaps. And that could be a path to success for Atlanta in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be, like you said, they have options, and it's going to, just going to be on them to execute, take advantage of those matchups, and come out and just be ready to play. Because the last thing this team needs is to have, just the media storm that will come with them if they come out and have a lame duck. People will be talking about the preseason. There will be people calling into question if the head coach knows how to run, all of the absurdities that come with a bad week 1 loss. You remember it from last year. Nobody wants to go through that again. So at the very least, just look competent, look prepared, It looked like an NFL football team.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is sort of shaping up to be sort of an easier week one game because I think the Bucs at full strength would just be a really bad week one matchup for this defense, but that's not the case. So this defense may get a little bit, not necessarily a break, but they may not have to face the full strength Bucs until later in the season. That could give them an opportunity to have. I think the Falcons, if they win this game, we're gonna be probably fine with whatever happens through this absolute gauntlet. If they can win this game and the Panthers game, I think they're gonna be okay. Like I think like just straight up, like even if those are the only 2 games they win out of the next like 6 games, I think they'll be okay. If they lose this game, things can get off the rails really quick. And that means they need to make up a game somewhere else. But this is the most important game in the entire first half of the season. And I think starting off with the win here, especially when you're going up against a Bucs team, again, not full strength, you're probably not going to get that opportunity later in the year. I mean, who knows? The Bucs, other things could happen, but more than likely they're going to be getting these guys back by the time these teams meet again. Like, you got to take advantage of this matchup when the Bucs are weaker, and get at least split with this team. At least if you can get this win, you're going to do no worse than split with them, and you start off 1-0. Going into like one of the most difficult opening stretches of any team in the NFL. So my expectations are like, please win this game, and then we can just weather this tough spot, but we can keep leaning back on, look, we got that Bucs win, we're gonna be okay. I don't really look forward to a future where they lose this game, and then we're talking about this team potentially being like 1-4 at some point. And for the record, that's probably still not like a death knell for them, given how soft the second half of the schedule looks on paper. Like they may be able to rattle off like quite a few wins in the middle of the year, but like I would rather not have to rely on winning like 6 straight games to get back into the playoff race. So let's just win this week 1 game. How about that? Like, why don't we just do that? We'll make it real simple. And just start off on the right foot this week. That's my plan.
Yeah, because the paper can lie. The paper can lie. Last year, the back half of the schedule was supposed to be super easy for the Falcons, and they struggled. And so, you don't want to, like you said, get in a spot off the jump where you're already having to make up games. You're behind the ball. This team can't afford to lose that. And man, Tampa's coming. This is like, obviously it's a division game. It means something for everybody. Tampa got swept last year. Tampa lost, big time on national television, overtime in front of everybody. This game means something to these players, and that they're going to be ready to come. They're going to be hyped up, and that they've had this one circled. And hopefully the Falcons are coming with that same mentality. Because this is going to be, a big game. Anytime you have a division rival to kick off the season, it's always, a little bit extra juice to the moment. So I don't think they're going to need anything to get up to make them realize that this is a huge game. But, they're going to have to be prepared for, all the shots that come after it if they don't, rise up to the occasion.
Yeah. I do think like it's really nice that this is in Atlanta too.
Yes.
Like I feel like the Falcons have been on the road like quite a bit over the past like 3 or 4 years in week 1, and being on the road in week 1 just sucks. Like every team's fan base is like extremely hyped. You're getting full energy no matter what the team's expected to do.
The hope is there. The hope's alive.
No matter what, you're getting full energy. So it's great. Like the fans are going to be absolutely wild. Week 1's going to be packed. Like, no matter what happens the rest of the year, week 1 is going to be great. So hopefully the Falcons will get the full benefit of the Ben's home field advantage this week. And historically, Falcons have played the Bucs well in Atlanta. So, hopefully that the history will be on their side as well. And this team can come away with a week 1 dub. But we'll get some more updates to you guys on Falcon Live tomorrow when we get the first injury report. I'll be having a game preview show. I think I'm going to have the Cannon Fire guys back on. Those guys are a bunch of fun. So we'll hope we can get that to you later this week. But yeah, we're going to be gearing up for Sunday. Obviously, we'll have our post-game show following that. And yeah, mentioning playoffs, let's check in because I know the week 1 odds went down. Let's see how the playoff odds look here. No, Falcons playoff odds actually went up slightly. So their week 1 odds went down. Playoff odds slightly creeped up. Now the Falcons are plus 136. They've just creeped ahead of the Steelers. I don't know what happened in Steelers land to prompt this, but so yeah, according to FanDuel, guys, Falcons up plus 136 to make the playoffs. So I don't see how that makes sense, but I guess week 1 and the playoffs, maybe people don't really think that's linked in the same way. Okay, whatever. But that's where we're at. So hopefully that will creep into the negative numbers, which means that they're favored. By the way, if you don't understand betting numbers, a plus number means you're not favored. A minus number means you are favored. And the bigger the number for the minus, the more you're favored. The bigger the number for the plus, the less you're favored. So Falcons right now close to 136 is not big underdogs for the record, but they're still behind, I think, several other NFC teams. I think they're the 8th, or I think there might be the 9th NFC team. They're behind the Cardinals, which to me, I don't really get that one, but whatever. The Cardinals are fine. I like the Cardinals too.
I think defense has a chance to be a top 10 group this year if it hits. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, if they can figure out how to throw the ball to Marvin Harrison, which is not a sentence I thought I would say, then I think they should be good to go. So we'll see. Interesting one. But yeah, Tre'Shon, anything else you want to add before we sign off today?
Well, you know what, Kevin? I'm actually starting a new channel called All Trey Phases. And it's going to be me basically proving some of my work, proving what I'm saying in here, doing some video breakdowns, going into just a little bit more detail, kind of covering some of the topics that we do here, but doing a little bit more of a film review and stuff like that. And so if you guys want to check it out, I'd love for you guys to go over. I don't have the video up yet, but it is coming soon. This is the first time I've talked about it, and it's going to be covering the Falcons' red zone offense.
All right.
And I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I love we get the news drop here on Tuesday Takes. Feels fitting. So, yeah, guys, All Trey Phases going to be launching soon. So look for that Falcons Red Zone video coming up. Excited to get my hands on that to whet you guys' appetite for week 1. It's going to be great. Exciting stuff. Happy to hear that, Tre'Shon. And guys, in the meantime, while you wait for that, you can follow Tre'Shon at Trey3Sean on Twitter or Tre'Shon.io on Blue Sky. I'm Kevin Knight of Falcon Kevin. You can follow me there. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Really helps us out. Appreciate everyone who's already done that. You can also leave us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. That's also nice. And if you want to support the show, patreon.com/Falcoholic or you can join the YouTube channel memberships. Really appreciate that too. Like I said, we'll be back Wednesday night to get to our Week 1 Falcoholic Live, and then we'll have a game preview, and then, of course, the Week 1 post-game show. Let's start off on a high note this year. I've been, it's been a little dour the last couple Week 1. So let's get a big dub in here this year to kick things off. So, guys, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Tuesday Takes. We will see you guys next time. Have a great day, folks.